Douglas Brick, a cold case uncovered after nearly 50 years in October 1973. 23-year-old Douglas Halliwell Brick left his dormitory at the University of Utah and vanished without a trace. For nearly 5 decades, his disappearance remained one of the region's most haunting unsolved mysteries until a chance discovery in 2022 finally reopened the case. Douglas was born on October 12, 1952, Harold and Donna Halliwell Brick, in Pocatello, Idaho, a bright and driven student. He graduated from Pocatello High School in 1968 as a top scholar. He was active in several school organizations, including the Boys Council, Key Club, and German Club. He also served as a delegate to Boys State, highlighting his leadership abilities and clear ambition for the future. Douglas enrolled at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City to continue his education. On his 23rd birthday, October 12, 1973, he was last seen leaving Austin Hall, his on-campus dormitory. His car was later found parked nearby. Inside, investigators discovered that his belongings had been carefully packed, suggesting he was preparing to travel. Strangely, his wallet was found discarded on the ground near the vehicle, raising immediate concern. As the investigation deepened, troubling details emerged. Douglas had recently withdrawn from most of his university classes and closed his bank accounts. Even more unsettling, records show that he had purchased a gun and 500 rounds of .22 caliber ammunition. When his dorm room was searched, 1 box of ammunition was missing. These findings prompted a major search effort by the University of Utah Police and Salt Lake County Search and Rescue, with their focus centered on the foothills behind the university campus. Despite their efforts, no trace of Douglas was found in the weeks following his disappearance. A friend reported seeing Douglas driving a truck on the road between Ogden, Utah and Pocatello, Idaho. According to the friend, Douglas claimed he had left college and planned to start a new life, asking that his family not be told. That sighting would be the last known trace of him for nearly 50 years. Over the years, the case remained dormant, complicated by lost police records, inconclusive search results, and conflicting witness accounts. But in 2022, a renewed spark of hope emerged. Nicole Mitchell, a crime data analyst working with Utah's statewide Information and Analysis Center, came across the forgotten file on Douglas Brick's disappearance. At the time, Major Heather Sturzenegger was the lieutenant overseeing cold cases for the University of Utah Police Department. Recognizing the potential significance, she agreed to reopen the case. Detective John Dial was assigned to the investigation after they received a promotion. However, he quickly discovered that the original case file contained very little useful information. As investigators began reconstructing the case from scratch, they came across a journal entry written by Douglas's mother, Donna Brick. In it, she described visiting a psychic shortly after her son's disappearance. The psychic claimed Douglas had gone into the foothills above the university, an area that matched the original search zone from 1973. Though unconventional, the clue added a haunting layer of possibility to the lingering mystery. Now, after decades of silence, the case of Douglas Brick has re-emerged, bringing with it renewed questions, lingering sorrow, and a faint hope for long-awaited answers. The long-awaited answers, the cases of Douglas Brick and Tanya Jackson. Douglas Brick vanished in 1973, found in 22 for the first real breakthrough in the decades-long mystery of Douglas Halliwell Brick came unexpectedly from a 2018 phone call. Douglas's sister had contacted University of Utah Dispatch, inquiring about her brother's case. That call, quietly logged at the time, would later become the foundation for renewed investigative efforts. Using information from the call, Detective John Dial traveled to California to meet Douglas's sister in person. During the visit, she willingly provided a DNA sample via cheek swab, hoping it might match her brother if he had ever been listed as a John Doe. The sample was submitted to the national database, but no match was found. Although disheartening, the meeting led to another valuable lead: Douglas's former girlfriend. She was located out of state and provided useful background information about Douglas's mindset and life before his disappearance. While her details didn't produce a new direction for the investigation, they helped fill in critical gaps in the timeline. Months passed with no significant progress until October 2024. That month, a group of hunters made a grim discovery. In the foothills near the University of Utah, human skull fragments. The site was flagged immediately, and DNA testing was ordered. In May 2025, the results came back. The remains matched the DNA sample Douglas's sister had submitted years earlier. After nearly 52 years, the mystery had an answer. The remains belonged to Douglas Brick, though the exact circumstances of his death remain unknown. The University of Utah Police formally closed the case following the DNA confirmation. On May 3, 2025, Douglas's family was notified. In a statement, the family shared, "We never stopped hoping for answers about Doug's disappearance. We are relieved to finally have some closure after 52 years. This result, while sad, is nothing short of a miracle." Tanya Jackson and Tatiana Dykes, a mother and daughter, identified decades later on June 28, 1997. A horrifying discovery was made in Hempstead Lake State Park in Lakeview, New York. While walking through a wooded area, a man and his daughter came across a Rubbermaid container. Inside was the dismembered torso of a woman, along with a floral pillowcase and a red towel. The victim's head, arms, and lower legs had been removed and were never recovered. The container was found approximately 200 yards north of Peninsula Boulevard, near McDonald Pond, with no immediate leads. Investigators focused on a tattoo found on the woman's left breast, an image that became her only identifiable feature. Hoping for a break, they published a tattoo image in a national tattoo magazine. Their efforts paid off. A tattoo artist from Connecticut, Steve Cullen, came forward, remembering he had inked the tattoo on a young black woman about 18 or 19 years old who had come to his shop with an aunt and cousin. She had told him she was originally from the Bronx or Long Island but was staying in Connecticut to escape problems with a boyfriend. Based on the tattoo design, investigators nicknamed the unknown victim Peaches. The case, however, remained cold for years. In April 2011, another discovery was made near Jones Beach State Park. More human remains. DNA testing conducted in 2016 confirmed they belonged to Peaches. Near the same location, skeletal remains of a child were found. Forensic analysis revealed that the child referred to as Baby Doe or Baby D was the biological daughter of Peaches. Though this breakthrough confirmed the two victims were mother and daughter, their true identities remained unknown. By 2020, the case was reinvigorated through advanced forensic methods. Nassau County authorities and the FBI partnered with forensic analysts at Othram, a private lab specializing in genetic genealogy. Work led to a long-awaited breakthrough. In 2023, Othram identified Peaches as Tanya Denise Jackson, born October 22, originally from Alabama. In June 2024, authorities confirmed the identity of her daughter as Tatiana Dykes. After more than 2 decades of mystery, the names behind the victims were finally known, closing a painful chapter and offering long-overdue dignity to a mother and child lost to violence. Long-awaited justice. The cases of Tanya Jackson, Tatiana Dykes, and Julia Sue Wilbanks. Tanya Jackson and Tatiana Dykes' identities revealed after nearly 3 decades in 2025. Investigators officially identified the remains of 2 victims long known only by nicknames, Peaches and Baby Doe. The child, discovered near Jones Beach State Park, was confirmed to be Tatiana Marie Dykes, the daughter of Tanya Denise Jackson, whose dismembered torso had been found in 1997 in Hempstead Lake State Park. The breakthrough came through advanced forensic genetic techniques. On April 23, 2025, Nassau County Police formally announced their identities to the public. Authorities explained the delay in disclosure was to ensure relatives were properly notified and burial arrangements could be respectfully made. Tanya had served in the United States Army from July 1993 to February 1995, with assignments in Texas, Georgia, and Missouri. After her military service, she moved to Brooklyn, New York, where she reportedly worked in a medical office, possibly as a medical assistant. Her daughter Tatiana was born on March 17, 1995, in Texas. Tragically, neither Tanya nor Tatiana had ever been officially reported missing, and by the time of their deaths, Tanya was no longer in contact with her family. Once identified, both mother and daughter were laid to rest in Alabama, their home state, with full military honors in recognition of Tanya's service. The locations where their remains were found raised questions due to their proximity to the Gilgo Beach serial killer crime scenes, a series of unsolved murders primarily involving female sex workers. In 2023, Rex Hoyerman was arrested and charged in several of the Gilgo Beach cases. However, authorities have not linked Tanya and Tatiana's deaths to Hoyerman or to the Gilgo case, and their cause of death remains a mystery. Despite confirming their identities, the investigation remains open. Detectives continue to seek information about Tanya's life in Brooklyn and any possible connections that may help solve the case. A $25,000 reward is being offered for information leading to an arrest and conviction. Authorities especially want to hear from anyone who had contact with Tanya between 1995 and 1997. Julia Sue Wilbanks' DNA solves a 1991 Florida roadside murdering. September 1991. The body of Julia Sue Wilbanks, 27, was found stabbed to death along a roadside in St. Cloud, Florida, crime that would go unsolved for more than 30 years. Julia was born in 1964 in Elaine, Arkansas, and grew up in a stable household. However, after moving to Osceola County, Florida, her life took a troubled turn. She became entangled in sex work and struggled with substance abuse. She was last seen walking through the McLaren Circle area of Kissimmee, though it was unclear where she was headed. On September 23, 1991, a group of motorists spotted her body off Neptune Road, roughly half a mile west of what is now Old Canoe Creek Road. When police arrived, it was determined that she had been dead for over 24 hours. Julia had suffered 17 stab wounds, with several fatal injuries to her heart. Investigators launched an immediate inquiry and collected evidence, including what appeared to be the perpetrator's blood on Julia's shorts. However, DNA technology at the time was too limited to generate useful leads. Throughout the 1990s, the evidence was tested against various individuals, but no matches were found. the case eventually went cold. But in 2012, detectives submitted the DNA sample to a private lab specializing in genetic genealogy. Although it took more than a decade, the method finally yielded a breakthrough in early 2025. The suspect's identity was uncovered: Gene Stuller. Investigators learned that Stuller had lived near Julia's last known location in 1991, placing him in the vicinity at the time of the murder. To confirm the connection, authorities placed him under surveillance. In March 2025, they discreetly collected a discarded straw used by Stuller. The results were conclusive. His DNA matched the profile from the crime scene. On April 21, 2025, Gene Stuller was arrested at his home in Apopka, Florida, finally closing a case that had haunted investigators for over 3 decades. Justice after decades. Breakthroughs in cold cases across the U.S. Gene Stuller, friendly neighbor, hidden past. In April 2025, Gene Stuller was arrested at his home in Apopka, Florida, where neighbors said he had lived for nearly 2 decades. He was charged with second-degree murder and abuse of a corpse in connection with the 1991 roadside killing of Julia Sue Wilbanks. The charges stunned the community. Neighbors described Stuller as a friendly and outgoing man, someone they never imagined could be capable of such a crime. One longtime resident said, "He was a nice fella. It's hard to believe." Stuller remains in custody as the investigation continues. The St. Cloud Police Department emphasized that justice delayed does not have to mean justice denied, particularly now that modern forensic tools allow cold cases to be re-examined with new precision. Jennifer Williams, Missouri teens. 1989 murder finally solved in September 1989. 18-year-old Jennifer Williams vanished into the night after leaving her job at a club in West Springfield, Missouri. For decades, her case remained unsolved, stalled by the limitations of early forensic science. But in 2024, a new round of DNA testing finally brought answers. Jennifer, born in 1971, had been married to Jeff Williams since 1987. Despite working as a topless dancer, her husband often spoke of her warmly, describing her as a hard-working woman and a devoted mother to their 1-year-old son. On the night of September 7, 1989, Jennifer left her workplace, the body shop now known as Centerfold. Around 10 p.m. she was expected to either go home or stop by her husband's workplace, but she never arrived at either location. Witnesses last saw her walking in the direction of her husband's job. 12 days later, a group of teenagers made a horrifying discovery: Jennifer's body, found in Springfield, Missouri. She had been sexually assaulted and murdered. The following day, her husband Jeff was arrested not for her murder, but for violating probation related to a prior firearms charge. Despite initial suspicions, investigators could not connect him to the crime. At the time, DNA testing was still in its infancy, limiting investigators' ability to process key evidence. The case went cold. In 2019, Jennifer's sexual assault kit was tested using improved methods, but the results were inconclusive. It wasn't until 2024 that a new round of DNA analysis finally yielded a match: 62-year-old Paul B.S., who was already being held at Fulton State Hospital in Callaway County, Missouri on unrelated charges. On April 17, 2025, Paul B.S. was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, forcible rape, and forcible sodomy. He was booked into the Callaway County Jail. Following the announcement, Jennifer's husband Jeff posted a message on Facebook: "Your perpetrator took something from all of us. The world was a better place with you in it." Murad Hussein DNA sheds light on 2005 Connecticut cab driver killing. On the morning of February 9, 2005, the body of Murad Hussein, a 35-year-old cab driver, was found in Windsor Locks, Connecticut. Nearly 20 years later, DNA technology finally led to new evidence that may bring long overdue justice. Originally from Pakistan, Murad lived in Brooklyn, New York, with his wife Ozma and their 2 young sons Husifa and Safwan. After struggling to find consistent construction work, Murad took a night shift driving for a local Brooklyn livery service, a job he had held for just 3 weeks. In the early hours of February 9th, Murad picked up 3 passengers in Brooklyn. The men requested a ride to Enfield, Connecticut, but he never returned. Later that morning, police in Windsor Locks responded to a report of a deceased male at the intersection of South Main Street and School Street. The victim was identified as Murad Hussein. His death remained a mystery for years, with no viable suspects. But thanks to advancements in DNA and forensic analysis, investigators recently uncovered fresh evidence, reigniting the case and pointing to individuals believed to be responsible. The investigation remains ongoing, but authorities are now closer than ever to holding those involved accountable. Justice. Finally, cold cases solved decades later. Gene Stuller, a friendly face hiding a dark past. In April 2025, Gene Stuller was arrested at his longtime residence in Apopka, Florida, where neighbors said he had lived for nearly 2 decades. He was charged with second-degree murder and abuse of a corpse in connection with the 1991 killing of Julia Sue Wilbanks. The charges shocked the quiet community. Many residents who had known Stuller described him as a friendly and outgoing man. One neighbor said, "He was a nice fella. I just can't believe someone I've lived next to for years could be accused of something like this." Stuller remains in custody as the investigation continues. The St. Cloud Police Department emphasized, justice delayed does not have to mean justice denied, especially now that modern forensic tools allow cold cases to be re-examined with remarkable accuracy. Jennifer Williams, 1989, cold case solved after 35 years in September 1989. 18-year-old Jennifer Williams left her job at a club in West Springfield, Missouri, and vanished into the night. Her disappearance haunted the community for decades, stalled by the forensic limitations of the time. But in 2024, advanced DNA testing brought long-awaited answers. Jennifer, born in 1971, was married to Jeff Williams. The two had wed in a Tulsa courthouse on October 24, 1987, and shared a close, loving relationship. Jeff often described Jennifer as a hard-working, good-hearted woman, even as she worked as a topless dancer to support their family. On the night of September 7, 1989, Jennifer left the body shop now known as Centerfold. Around 10 p.m. she was expected to either return home or stop by her husband's workplace. She never made it to either. Witnesses last saw her walking in the direction of Jeff's job, but after that, she vanished. 12 days later, a group of teenagers discovered her body in Springfield, Missouri. Jennifer had been sexually assaulted and murdered, leaving behind a 1-year-old son. The day after her body was found, Jeff Williams was arrested not for the murder, but for a probation violation related to a prior charge for reckless handling of a firearm. Despite being the prime suspect, there was no solid evidence linking him to the crime. Forensic DNA technology in 1989 was still in its infancy, limiting investigators' ability to analyze key evidence. The case went cold. In 2019, Jennifer's sexual assault kit was tested, but the results were inconclusive. It wasn't until 2024 that a new round of testing using improved DNA analysis techniques pointed to a suspect, 62-year-old Paul B.S. At the time, B.S. was being held on unrelated charges at Fulton State Hospital in Callaway County, Missouri. On April 17, 2025, detectives contacted him and arrested him for Jennifer's murder. He was charged with second-degree murder, forcible rape, and forcible sodomy, and booked into Callaway County Jail. Following the announcement, Jennifer's husband posted a heartfelt message to Facebook. "Your perpetrator took something from all of us. The world was a better place with you in it." Murad Hussein, a 2005 cab ride that ended in murdering the early hours of February 9, 2005. Murad Hussein, a 35-year-old cab driver, picked up 3 men in Brooklyn, New York, who requested a ride to Enfield, Connecticut. He never returned home. Later that morning, police in Windsor Locks, Connecticut, responded to a report of a deceased male at the intersection of South Main Street and School Street. The victim was identified as Murad, born in 1970 in Pakistan. Murad had been living in Brooklyn with his wife Ozma and their 2 young sons, Husifa and Safwan. A former construction worker, he had recently taken a night shift job with a local livery service to support his family. He had only been on the job for 3 weeks when his life was tragically cut short. The case went unsolved for nearly 2 decades, but recent advancements in DNA technology have provided investigators with new evidence that could finally lead to justice. Authorities have not yet released full details, but the case has been reopened and is actively being pursued. Investigators are hopeful that the latest forensic breakthroughs will bring closure to Murad's grieving family. Now an adult, Safwan Murd, the son of slain cab driver Murad Hussein, is reflecting on the long journey toward justice. Speaking publicly for the first time since the recent arrest in his father's case, the 21-year-old expressed a mixture of gratitude and grief. "We are grateful for the work of the police department and the efforts of everyone involved to bring our family some peace," Safwan said. Still, the emotional weight of the case is far from simple. "We had lost hope. We kind of stopped thinking about it. We just felt like this massive injustice happened, and then nothing. No resolution. No justice," he added. Safwan recalled how his mother began to worry in the hours after Murad didn't come home. She woke up and he wasn't there. At first she wasn't that worried, she thought he was out working, but as time kept passing she started to get anxious. She kept calling and calling. He wasn't picking up. She called other people in. The family, no one knew where he was. Days later, Murad's body was found in Connecticut. Safwan was just a toddler when his father was killed. "I don't have any memories," he admitted. "My brother, the only memory he has is from the funeral home. Our dad's body was being taken back to Pakistan, and someone held him up to see. That's the only thing he remembers." When Safwan saw Muhammad Ali, the man now charged with his father's murder, appear in court, he didn't feel rage, but something else. "I never felt that angry. To tell you the truth, I didn't want to see his face, but I did. He looked pathetic, I really mean it. He looked disgusting." Muhammad Ali is currently being held on $1 million bond. Prosecutors argue he poses a serious flight risk, noting that he fled to Pakistan shortly after the 2005 crime, a move that allowed him to evade justice for nearly 2 decades.